If the road were easy, everyone would take it. We don't shy away from challenges. We dive in. And now, live from an undisclosed location in FEMA Region 10, it's your host, Joshua Michael.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to June 8th, 2024. Can you believe it? About 155 days until November. And boy, is it coming quickly. We're going to get into the Trump trial today. I want to talk about them shutting down Alex Jones through this Lawfare that we're underway. There's some fluoride news I want to get into. I want to talk about AI. I want to talk about a bunch of different things going on. Welcome. Hope you're enjoying your Saturday today. We're going to finally start having some nice weather coming in. So hopefully you're able to get that garden up and away and do some gardening and get that stuff watered and planted. Because rest assured, these 4.5 million chickens that they've been mutilating over this bird flu nonsense, guaranteed it's all part of a big plan. It's all part of a big plan. So I don't know if you guys follow Mike Adams, the health ranger, but I follow him a lot. And he posted last night, about 10 hours ago, something that happened with the Ninth Circuit Court. And essentially, this is very, very important. Above everything else, this is very important in regards to the key and the state of where we are at in this overall deindustrialization of our society, okay? So I was talking to my friend about this last night, and basically this is a very, 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 very good thing. It needs to happen, but it's going to have short-term consequences that's going to make this country get pinched in a way that we have to essentially go through the tunnel if we want to get to the light. And so I'll explain to that here in just a second. So the Ninth Circuit Court has officially, it keeps poking up on here, has officially stripped the mRNA shots of legal liability protection. The Ninth Circuit Court has said that it's not a vaccine, and if its claim is to prevent the spread, then it doesn't have the liability protection. The COVID shots were claimed to, quote-unquote, reduce symptoms and prevent hospitalizations. Now, let's break this down a little bit. The only way they got the emergency use authorization, which gave them the liability protection, was for them to completely invalidate the ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, budesonide, all these other things that were showing at the time to be a good preventative and or mitigate symptom. I don't want to say cure, but I would just say there were regimens that people were introducing, America's Frontline Doctors, they were introducing these things to be an alternative to this quote-unquote death shot, right? So the COVID shots were claimed to reduce symptoms and prevent hospitalization. Those claims made it a treatment. So the Ninth Circuit Court has essentially revoked this. Now, what is that going to mean? Obviously, they're probably going to appeal it. It's eventually going to go to the Supreme Court, everything else. But what's setting the precedent is that they're eliminating the liability protection, which allows the individual to then go after the pharmaceutical company that manufactured it. You can go after the individual group or organization or corporation that administered it, aka the doctor, Walgreens, all that stuff. So prepare a lot of lawsuits that are going to come this way. I also think that this is going to open up employers that required any type of vaccination, required the employee to get vaccinated in order to stay at work or stay employed with them. I think that's going to also open up a lot of lawsuits. The one other thing that it might be opening up is the fact that the insurance companies are just going to be absolutely overwhelmed, because what does the corporation do? They go, oh, we'll just peel that claim to the insurance, and the insurance companies will deal with that. Now, that's what insurance is for. But what's going to happen, and this is part of the greater scheme with everything going on. Yes, we do need to address these tyrants like Fauci, Daszak, and all these EcoHealth Alliance people that manufactured this virus and used China as a front man to release it on the world to combat against all the, I would just say the rebellion that's against the administrative state that's happening everywhere. El Salvador, Argentina, parts of Africa, like Nigeria, parts of Europe, Australia, all this stuff coming on, and especially the United States and Canada and everything else. Well, they can't have pro-liberty groups out there. And so COVID was all it was a beta test to see how the public would react. Two, it was to de-industrialize the world and create massive amounts of starvation, something that nobody talks about. Typically, 15 to 20 million people starved to death. I think they were projecting between 60 and 80 million that have been affected just by the lockdowns, not by COVID, and that's just by the lockdowns. That's why we have giant migrant waves coming up the border, because they don't have any food. They've shut off industry. They've been interdependent on our service-based economy and consumer-based economy here in the United States. And when we stop buying stuff, when the economy goes down, we stop buying stuff. Guess what? Manufacturing goes down in these third world countries that all they have in these small towns and small cities and tribes and stuff like that, all they have is their manufacturing. That's the only thing that they got. They're not able to collaborate and create distribution networks and set up their own trade mechanisms, everything else, because parts of the CIA and the West, yes, the United States, has played an integral part in keeping some of these countries down via the CIA, the FBI, all of these things. If you ever want to see how things actually have been happening and operating for the past 50, 60 years, and why some of these countries have maintained third world countries, even though that they are mineral rich and they do have a lot of resources available, they're forced to privatize their industry. Either they play along with what the United States wants to sell off their resources at a super cheap rate to our corporations, which then in return allows us to have a cheap coffee cup or different manufacturing goods. We're able to get it so cheap is because of the thumb and the stronghold, not just the United States. I would say other countries have played an integral part of this, but that's what's been going on around the world. One of the highest surplus mineral enriched, resource enriched continents in the world is Africa. And so why do you think that there's constant fighting, genocides, real genocides still going on today? And it's not just Africa, Russia's too, but they're the most untapped resource besides Antarctica, if you want to get into that debate. But basically, we've been using the infighting and the tribalism in these countries, and China uses it really well as well, to get cheap resources. Because when we get cheap resources, we're able to sell it to the U.S. So that makes your TV $300 instead of $3,000, right? Or $5,000 or $10,000 in the 90s, where they used to be. I remember, we had a giant TV at the time. I think it was like an 80-inch in 1992, and my dad bought it, and it was like this big, huge ordeal, right? And I think he paid like $10,000 for it, if you can imagine that. But dude likes his TV, so whatever, if he's into that sort of thing. But anyways, what I'm getting at is that there's been kind of a long, drawn-out process on getting us to this point, which then, in return, creates the migrant flux because they got nothing to do. They got no resources. They have no jobs. They have nothing. So what do? They flood to the United States. Well, we don't really have jobs either. But we need jobs because people aren't procreating. Nobody's having kids, which is a huge issue, whether it be through the chemical castration in the water supply or whatever it may be. That's also an issue as well. So in return, there's an argument. We need some of the migrants to be here, the illegals, not the illegals, but the migrant populations to come in legally. But it's just kind of an ongoing thing. It's an interconnected complexity. It's not just hey, we need to do this and this will solve everything. That's not how things are working, and that's not how things work. So what does this mean? Strips of liability protection, which is great. But guess what? These giant corporations, they are profit-driven 100%. So what does that mean? Anything that they're going to have to pay out, anything that they're going to have to do, whatever other industry that they're subsidized in or a parent company or a sister company that they're tied in with, they're just going to pull from that, which means it's going to increase rates, which in return, they're going to get the insurance companies to pay for that. And then at the end of the day, what's that going to do? It's going to cause insurance to go up. So as insurance goes up, it's going to bleed off onto the consumer. And yes, we are having a victory, but this is how the system becomes to collapse. Is as insurance companies up, because they're already up. Insurance is through the roof. And it's only going to keep increasing as more deaths and more dysfunction, more claims. This is allowing them to jump onto the insurance companies, because that's really what it's going to come down to. And in return is going to crash the insurance markets. Okay, so let's say we have $5,000 a month you have to pay for your car insurance. Well, you can't afford to drive. Perfect. That's exactly what they want. Spirals us closer to this green agenda. This you can't drive, you can't eat meat, everything else because of the insurance. So maybe it's a $10,000 car, but you got to pay $5,000 a month for insurance to drive it. Well, guess what? You're going to drive it. And or they're going to socialize or centralize the insurance agencies through government. Now, they've already kind of done that in some form of way with the medical system and Obamacare. The Obamacare system destroyed the medical insurance industry. And it's never been the same. It's never been able to recover. But the insurance companies profited greatly once Obamacare kicked in. Right? 200%, 300%, 400% immediately. Boom. So it's all part of a plan. These guys aren't going to really be hurting from it. They're just going to pass it off onto the consumer because that's their job. That's what they do. That's how corporations work. This is why we need a Nuremberg 2.0 setup to go after these people and shut these industries down completely. Yes, pharmaceuticals do have a place and a role in a very selective thing, but they've been running amok on our society for too long and passing all of their debts, everything else. We're the 1 out of 3 countries that have the amount of chemicals and pharmaceuticals in our society that's acceptable. I mean, we're one of the most highly medicated societies in the world. We're the highly surveilled, highly medicated. We get all these experimental drugs, forever chemicals that they're able to put in our food and everything else with no oversight. We are some of the smartest, stupidest people that exist on this planet. And so what this is going to do is it's going to allow for liability protection, which is great. It's great to revoke that, and it's great to get rid of that because this needs to happen. This is part of the process. But the bigger plan is it's further going to bankrupt and dismantle the country, which I believe we are now on an inevitable path of collapse and economically, socially, and all of these things that through the remnant, we're going to be able to raise up and rise up out of. But we have to get active and we have to get prepared because that is what is on the table at this point. And I'll explain to you why after this. We'll be right back.
It's time to unmask the truth and expose the lies. The occupied forces do not want you to hear this broadcast. Breaking through the censorship and delivering raw, unedited content, it's Joshua Michael with Non-Compliant America.
All right, welcome back, folks. So, the $1 million question is, one, we got the debate coming up at the end of June in just a couple weeks for the Trump-Biden, possibly RFK Jr. He's fighting like hell to get on that debate stage, which I actually think it would be a blessing if we can get him on there, because he is going to change the entire narrative. They're doing everything that they can to keep him off of there, because he's very informed and he's got great debate skills, and he is going to change the tables in regards to what the conversation is. You know, it's actually going to be interesting. I think if I were a betting man, I don't know how Trump is going to do it or frame it. But on the debate stage, you know, we all know how it's going to go. Joe Biden's going to be like, oh, yeah, #1 jobs report ever, best economy ever, blah, 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 blah. He's going to gaslight everything. And then we got this convicted felon here who is attempting to run for president and dismantle our great democracy. I just think Trump should be like, well, at least I don't poop my pants on stage. I mean, I just think that to me is the ultimate rebuttal to his felony thing, because that's what they're going to press on. That's why they're doing this kangaroo court, unprecedented levels, things like have never been done before. I mean, literally, this prosecutor came from the White House. They put him into New York. So what's going to be the outcome of that? You know, and what's going to happen on July 11th during the sentencing? Are they going to make it to the sentencing? Is Trump's lawyer going to be able to push things to the Supreme Court? I think the Supreme Court should definitely intervene at this point. They're definitely election meddling. New York is now essentially election meddling in the entire campaign and disenfranchising every other state, to where every other state should have a say and be able to kind of say, well, you know, you guys are fumbling into this election, and we're not going to have it. You know, you're disenfranchising our voters, say Texas or, you know, Georgia or whatever state wants to intervene, which they should. And then the other perspective is maybe Trump just says, you know what? I'm not going to go to New York. Screw you guys. It's illegal. I'm going to stay in Florida and come and get me. See what happens. You know, is he that kind of guy? Are they going to get to that point? Or Trump's like, yeah, I'm going to go to jail. Heck yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Let's see if you can get the American people fired up enough. Now, here's the dangers to this. I think they're going to put him in jail. Do I want him? No. Do I want him in there? No. Do I think it's an absolute disgrace to the judicial system? Absolutely. But that's going on with the whole theme of this administration and of this climate that we're in. Dismantling the faith in the insurance companies, dismantling the faith in the pharmaceuticals, in the medical industry, in the presidency, in the executive branch, in the legislative branch. You know, it's been an ongoing theme that Congress's approval is 9%. That's been 10 years that it's been 9%. Nobody has faith in these people. And so I believe this is another step toward dismantling the faith in our judicial system, which has been kind of the last pillar, and it's kind of the end of the road. It's the safety net. It's the thing when you're out doing something and you get caught, quote unquote, committing a crime, or you're speeding, or you know, people are trying to take your kids away, or somebody's slandering you on the internet and defaming you and doxing you. You have faith that when you go and you have your redress of grievances and you go to the court system and you say, hey, Your Honor, here's my case. Here's what's going on. Let me present the evidence. And I feel justice needs to be done. And we have faith in our concept, in our minds, of what makes this country so great is that we think, okay, I have faith in it. At least I can sue this person. At least I can have some type of recourse of justice in this system and get to an end result to where the scales and the balance will be true to some degree. Now, if you talk to a seasoned attorney, they're going to say, well, it never works like that. You're never going to actually get everything that you want, but you should get relatively close and be able to undo some of those wrongdoings. Now, what is this Trump case doing? This is why I think that this country, in some cases, is falling, but it needs to fall. It needs to fall because the infrastructure and the bureaucracies and all of the things, we as Americans, the stupid Americans that we've allowed this to happen for so long, we've been too fat and too happy for too long. We as Americans need to start dismantling the infrastructures of these useless bureaucracies. Useless. There's an agency for everything. Some oversight permit BS. We don't need all that crap. It needs to be consolidated down because it's running out of control. It's a runaway train, and we're seeing now how it's able to be manipulated with no oversight. And these people in New York and DC, they figured out a way to manipulate it, but now they are now breaking the social contract publicly to further dismantle your faith in the system. Now, what's that going to do? It's going to create more lawlessness. It's going to reaffirm that this country is broken. And it is broken. But the good news is that I'm seeing more and more and more people coming out of the woodworks, people that were huge anti-Trumpers. They've had Trump derangement syndrome for 6 years. Everything else, they're starting to say, wait a minute, this is BS. How is it that these guys think that they're above the law and they're just going to get away with what they're doing to Trump and to Alex Jones and to everybody else? It's all coming up, folks, and it's all coming and meant. These people are here to protect you because they're going to come for you next. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, folks. Just real quick, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping in regards to, how this past week has gone and kind of what's going on the internet and everything else. There's a business partner that is doxing me online right now and just defaming and everything else. And it's one of the saddest videos I think I've ever seen. And it's a really sad situation. But just know, my integrity is being challenged. I haven't really had too many people hit me up and be like, how dare you, aside from, the typical people that just like drama on the internet. But anybody that knows me, just know I am doing the right thing. I'm not some slime ball that is hiding in the shadows and, screwing people over and taking all their money and everything else. That's just not me. That's not how I operate. That's nothing within my character. We don't do those types of things. And just so you know, whatever's being presented out there, there's obviously some obscured and emotional elements to how it's being presented, to where you really just got to look into it a little bit more, or just know it's not that way. That's not how things are going. We had spoke a few weeks prior. There was a startup that we did a couple years ago, and she was an investor in it, and she just got tied up and needed a bunch of money, that was an investment. And so, the investments are true. It's working. It's just a longer return than she wanted. So she's not happy about it. She's having some medical issues and things like that. So just it's a sad situation, and we want to pray for her and pray, that everything gets better for her with that. And we have, and I have, and we do continue to do everything that we can to make that better. So just in case you're listening, in case you're wondering, in case you're, hearing a bunch of stuff, you guys got to understand. I mean, you can't just fall into everything that you see and hear on the internet. And again, it's a sad situation. So we pray that things are better. So a little bit more Lawfare things I want to get into in regards to Alex Jones. It looks like InfoWars will essentially be, possibly shutting down in the next 14 days. Be 13 days now, based on the projections. Now, what is this going to do? I was talking to Rob Taylor the other day on his show, which I'm going to try to get him on maybe next week, and we can chat, because I like Rob Taylor. He's a great guy. He's a good guy. He knows a lot. He's interesting, and he is non-compliant as of. So we like him. Anybody that wants to get in on that, we might do a live X space and have an open conversation with Rob during the show. And I just want to talk about what's on his radar and everything else. So it looks like in regards to the Alex Jones thing, now what is this going to mean overall? And what was I talking about before? Is understand Alex Jones was InfoWars, right? So he was the end-all, be-all, everything else. I personally believe that as Alex gets freed up from having to do the marketing, the management, the hiring, the firing, the oversight, the product plug, just all this, you understand this guy was probably working 12 hours a day, maybe 10 at the very end, more recently, but the dude is a machine. He's on everything. He's very good. He's very viral, and he's good at getting things out there. And he's very informed, everything else. So all of the corporate structure, management, energy that has been utilized, and he's been tied up in running his operation, trying to stay open, going through all the Lawfare, going through all the stuff, everything else. What happens when they shut that down? What happens? He is going to have so much freaking time and all this energy bundled up to where now, just like when they locked down during COVID, after 28 days, you typically lose whatever routines that you had. Any routine that you had, it's gone. Typically, they say after about 28 days. So you get rid of all the routines that he's been doing for 30 years, 30 plus years, and you take all that away. Now you have a fireball that is in the weeds, just waiting and charged up and completely free to just go out into the world and just raise all kinds of awareness and have all of this time and energy to do it. I think this is one of the stupidest things that the deep state has attempted to do and is doing by taking Alex Jones out of his host chair and letting him free to go out and do whatever it is that he's going to do. I think this is going to be one of the giant moves that we see come into play, and I think he's going to play an integral part in this court of public opinion war that we're in. He's going to play an integral part on these next couple months. I truly believe that. Whether it be in the Trump campaign, whether it join up with Tucker, or, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? There's a lot of speculation out there. But it's really interesting, and I think that's only going to make him stronger. It already has. He was getting, on average, between 3,000 to 5,000 real-time views on his X account when they reinstated him for his show. Immediately following this big shutdown thing, he's averaging, I would say, between 80 and 200,000 listeners at any given time. Now, granted, it equates to millions because that's just one platform, everything else. But his traffic has, tenfold since this happened, since this attempted shutdown. And people aren't talking about it. People aren't coming to his defense. Well, they finally are, but for the longest time, they've just let him hang out to dry. And it's so sad and it's interesting, but what I like is that he doesn't care. He doesn't need the attention. He doesn't need, all of that stuff. He's just an interesting guy who likes to read white papers and has exposed this entire agenda almost to a T, whether it be biblical, whether you call him a saint, or whether he just is a good reader with a photographic memory and actually interested in this stuff. He is a true American hero, in my opinion. I love the guy. He's great. He's solid. Does what he says he's going to do. He's been a huge advocate for the state of the world, I would say, that we see right now, and the healthy radicalization of the Republican Party was played in part, I think, by Alex Jones. Yes, Trump was the beachhead that pushed everything forward, but essentially the libertarian grassroots movement, the Tea Party movement type-esque stuff, the Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Barry Goldwater era, the football has been carried a lot by Alex in some of his great journalism that he's done and exposing the millions and millions of different things and concepts, and just, I don't know. I think half the internet is now Alex Jones. Dan Bongino talks like Alex Jones now. 5 years ago, Dan Bongino did not talk anything like he did. Right? Sean Hannity even is more Alex Jones-esque. Tucker Carlson, same thing. Just listening to these people talk. Maria Z in Australia, she's on fire. Stu Peters, I could go on and on and on. Even Joe Rogan, these people, I think, stems from a lot of things that Alex Jones has put out. And so we need to defend him. If you can go to InfoWars store, make a donation, make a contribution, buy some stuff. I know Dr. Jones Naturals, too, is now kind of his new leading sponsor, or KEPM.com. Also is a gold and silver sponsor. Now, what's been going on with gold and silver? If you guys have been watching it, it's just been running a roller coaster, which is really interesting. Today, it's down 29. It's almost down 6.5% over, I would say, the last couple days. So it's down to 29.34. Now, I follow silver a lot. Now, what's going on with it? I think there's a lot of volatility in the stock market, things like that. If you guys haven't been following the GameStop, so I think the GameStop shorts are about to expire on the 21st, if I can recall. And so that's going to be interesting. So if you haven't been following the GameStop thing, it's hard to explain, but basically all these billionaires were doing these naked shorts to this GameStop, trying to crash the company. And this guy named Roaring Kitty jumped on the internet. And he's like, hey, this is over leveraged. Let's all buy stock, cause it to go up. And all these billionaires that I think are 258 times over leveraged on their short, they're going to lose billions and billions of dollars, and we're going to make tons of money. Well, they've been holding it for years, and now it's about to default. So Really interesting. Expect a lot of activity in the next couple weeks on that. We'll be right back.
Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money.
Drop. Now when I make a CD, my name was Slop. If I rap, shoot my beats and stop. Step from the game when I.
All right, welcome back, folks. Last segment.
If you try to knock me, you'll get mocked.
So, if you ever want to know what's happening or what's coming or what's going on, a lot of the times we're now a few years behind of what's going on in Europe. So if you look at what happened in Sweden with the migrant crisis and the open border, it looks like probably 6-8 years ago now it started with all the Muslim countries. They've been completely taken over and overhauled, a lot of these countries, because they had an open border. Just like what we have right now is a giant open border, a gaping hole in our country with no accountability and anything else. Interestingly enough, as far as the Generation Z voters, the number one issue to those voters is housing. It's not open border. It's not migration. Typically, it's like migration, right? And open borders and all of that. So that is the number one issue for Gen Z. Just a fun little interesting fact. So in the news today, Oregon's U.S. Rep. Suzanne Bonamiki looks to state a state's project turnkey national. Now, what does this project do? What does it mean? So the need for shelter spaces and social distancing push these nonprofits to rent mobile rooms, hotel rooms for clients experiencing homelessness due to the pandemic and the shutdowns and everything else. Well, now they are now looking to house and basically utilize existing hotels. Now, hotels don't care. Money's money. Whoever's using the room, they're using the room. And, they're really owned by only a couple people anyway that own a lot of these hotels. But what this is doing, it's a proposed bill that would create a national program modeled after Oregon's Project Turnkey, which converts vacant hotels into shelters. So that's exactly what we need, is just more shelters for this, problem that's already out of control. And let's just throw more money at it. Let's just give people a place to live. Let's just do that. That sounds like a great idea. They don't have to work. They can do drugs all day. No accountability. They can go to jail, or they can go to this nice quality inn, on Market Street. Like, what kind of freaking logic is it for these people to do this, right? And the federal government's just subsidizing it. They've sent billions of pandemic relief money to the states. Oregon lawmakers diverted some of that money towards standing up a project that ran for 2 budget cycles before federal dollars dried up. Well, now what are they going to do? Now they're just going to pull it out of your tax money. Now they're just going to pull it out of the state tax money, which is going to get the Oregon Treasury more aggressive, and they're going to just create more nonsense oversight bills to create more taxes. So hop on, folks, because guess what? The Oregon Republicans are weak and have no spine and aren't willing to stand up to anything like this. So rest assured, you guys are just going to be paying for it indirectly in some form or fashion. Just like we're going to be paying for it for the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical collapse. It's inevitable. It's going to happen, right? But they need it to collapse. They need to desensitize us into believing that we have a truth and honor system. They need to desensitize our justice system and make it, one-sided or two-tier or multi-tier. They need to establish that concept in your mind so you stop believing in the system. It's a demoralization campaign. Is there a reason why we have Joe Biden on stage crapping his pants in front of everybody? How embarrassing. How embarrassing is it for our country for that to happen? But it's all part of a bigger scheme to demoralize this country, right? How pathetic is it that that's our president of our entire nation? it has come to that. It's just unbelievable, isn't it? But it's all part of the plan. That's how they do it. They make things ugly. They promote ugly art. They promote negative values. They promote, anti-family values. They promote, being a crappy human being and amplify crappy mental patients, aka the LGBTQ mental patients. Let's amplify them. Let's give them a month. Right? Meanwhile, all the good people that actually are out there trying to be good human beings, they're being punished. And I don't talk about myself that much or anything else, but I am experiencing real lawfare against the judicial system. Legitimate. And I'm up for an appeal because a judge in Marion County decided that he, under no circumstances and no justification, even admitted it, he is trying to take my parental rights away from one of my oldest sons. And that's, that is probably, aside from incarcerating somebody, the worst power that a judge has is that ability, right? Because he's completely altering the path of my son's life. And I haven't talked about it that much. We're going to be talking about it. I'm doing a whole report on the case. We're going to break down all the details with that. And I'm going to let you guys be the judge and decide on if the judge made a right call or not. Now, he knows that he didn't make the right call because it took him over 6-7 weeks to sign the judgment, where usually it's like a couple days after they make their decision, boom, they sign it and it goes into effect. He didn't sign it or address it for almost 7 weeks. And he didn't know what to do. And before he signed it, because he ended up having to sign it because you can't reopen the case once you close it, he called us back in for a hearing and he's like, what do you guys want to do? What can we do? Because he knows that he messed up. And so we'll get more in detail on that. I don't like bringing my life to the forefront, but here we are. Everybody, likes drama, I guess. But there's some real injustices happening. And now, why do I mention that? Because it's a small microcosm, very small, compared to what Trump's going through, or Alex Jones, or Andrew Tate, or Russell Brand, or all these people. But it's a small microcosm, and just understand it does happen here. And I believe 100% has everything to do with this show. Has everything to do with me speaking the truth and talking about the topics that I talk about, aligning with the people that I align with, and having these open conversations, because the other side literally mentioned my show and all the events and rallies and activism and participation in the Republican events and things like that. They mentioned all of that in the court hearing as if it has any type of value on anything and has anything to do with me being a father. And it doesn't. Absolutely ridiculous. And the judge pretended not to consider it. But at the end of the day, based on his ruling, with no finding of fact, literally said, I don't find anything that Josh is doing in his household concerning for the health and safety of the children. But I'm going to basically take all of his parenting time away. Completely ridiculous. Doesn't make sense. Just know we're fighting it. We're going to get through it. He's got a lot to say, and he's going to have to answer for this extraordinary measure of what he did. But I personally believe has everything to do with this show. So lawfare is everywhere on all tiers. It's happening, and it happens in places where people don't have a microphone. And I think there's a massive amount of injustices that are happening to all the fathers out there, especially in Oregon, with things that are going on. And you know what? We got to stick together and we got to fight this. And so I'm going to make it a point to where we're going to expose this stuff, and we're going to let these crooked judges know where we're at. We're going to start putting some heat on them, and make them overturn these things and create a better unity with the family. Thanks for listening. I'm Joshua Michael, Non-Compliant America. Have a great week.